Thank you all for coming. So when Josh and I first started talking about this event for a very, very special person, we were thinking, what can we do? You know, this very special someone who does not like attention. So naturally, we threw him a party. But there are a lot of people who want to talk and share stories with you tonight about Leo. I just have a very quick story. Leo is like hyperventilating already. I've only worked with Leo for a little bit more than 4 years, but I've learned a lot. And one of my favorite things that you taught me was this. I had a client who liked to share ideas when he can't sleep late at night. So like he would get on the treadmill and then get crazy ideas about how to design and email me at 1 in the morning. And so I went to Leo and I talked to him about it. And Leo's like, you know, next time when you're awake at 1, just email him back and say, thank you. I got your email. I'm gonna look into it first thing in the morning. And that's customer service 101. And so I want to thank Leo for teaching a new generation of designers and architects the importance of customer service. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick, who's worked with Leo for more than 40 years, so from 4 to 40. And we actually will have Rick, Diedre, Mike Cox, Sarah, and then we're going to do open mic, and then Josh will wrap it up.
It's really nice to see everybody come out. This is a special day. And now Leo's probably thinking, and I've heard him say, or at least I heard that he said, that he didn't want one of those R events. Those R events. And so we're really, so, you know, with all of the information we have about Leo, and all of his history, and after what, 50 years, you'd think so. But no, Leo, we're not going to do a roast. So but we do have some other R words that we might want to use, and we've given some thought to a few things, and I had to write them down. Hope everyone doesn't mind. I had to write them down because there's a lot of R words that do work, and so first of all, you know, he's reliable. You just know he's going to be there. And he's going to do it, and if he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And so I think it's really important. And I've only worked with him for 41 years, so I don't know everything about him. And as you know, he's not as talkative as we might think to gain some of that information. But you know, I have learned a few things. And then when I started, you know, I was an intern, if you can imagine that. And I do remember one of my first jobs with Leo and Tom. Leo and Tom are in the back seat of Tom's car, working. And my job was to drive. And to drive very fast, because we were going to be late. Through the back country of Wisconsin. And we're doing 80, 85, 90 on these back roads. And it was Tom's car. And there was 2 rules that we had. One was you're never late for a meeting. 2, you pay your own speeding tickets. So and it was a good thing it was Tom's car, because back then Leo had one of the new Honda Civics. Well, Leo's 6'4", the Honda Civic's about the size of a smart car. And I was always kind of curious. And it was orange.
Yes, it was.
Very, very bright kind of a car. So those are some of my memories and the kinds of things that we did. I don't know what you guys were talking about in the back seat, but it sounded important at the time. So, Leo is a great resource. Another R word great resource. And I really relied on Leo all of my years for information. And if you can get it out of him and get him to talk. And sometimes that took a little while, but he was always a great resource for information. And I'd like to add another one, respect. Leo always respected the client and everyone in the office. And that's how he operated, and it's greatly appreciated, I think, for everybody. And it really worked well for the business and for all the relationships that we had. And he was resilient. You know, we would, you know, in the world of business, things get kind of thrown at you, and you just have to deal with it. And he was always there, and he was just very solid and resilient, and we dealt with what we had to, and Leo certainly did his part. And he would do his research, always knew what we were supposed to be doing, and relied on him for a lot of information that he knew. Leo came from the world of doors. He worked at Trust Built before Horty Elving, and I learned a lot about door hardware and doors and all the intricacies of it, and very complex kinds of things. So, you know, often he was right. Maybe a little more than often. Always. He was right, and because he did his research, and he was really well prepared for that. And he was rural. Leo grew up on a farm. He's kind of a farmer at heart, I think. He loves the land, and I've enjoyed my rural backcountry trips with Leo. A couple of good snowstorms where you kind of drive a little north and a little west, a little north, a little west, till you find a good road. But I think the kind of clients we had, they really felt that as well. And he's responsive to what we needed to do. So I appreciated that considerably. Believe it or not, he's got restraint and resolve, I might add. I've only
set the bar too high here.
You'd be surprised how many R words come up that are really good. You know, I've got another one here. Raucous. No, not really. That one didn't come up. And kind of relaxed. But then there's also redlining and redrawing and all of that. You know, you'd have to do. And it's kind of reserved. And so those are all qualities that work and that are just admirable, that he's brought to the table and brought to the firm and everything that we've ever done, and whether it's in the past or in the future, and you've mentored me, and you know, I trust that you're going to be there for a while yet to do that. So, thank you. Are you next, Diedre?
I am. I'm told I'm after Rick. I was told.
Where's your notes? Okay. Look out, Leo.
Well, it's going downhill from there because I only worked with Leo a little over 30 years. I interviewed with him, yeah, you and Linda, when I started. And over the years, we worked on tons of projects together. We traveled a great deal. In fact, some of our clients felt that we were like an old married couple because we'd scrap and we'd joke back and forth. One of our clients, we were trying to select carpet, and as the client rejected samples, Leo just took it and flung it across the room like, it's out of here. Thank goodness it was a really large room and we were the only ones in it. Another time, The project was Ray, Colorado. That's eastern, hot Colorado. And on this, we were building a hospital there. And on this particular trip, it was so hot that in the evening when it got down to 102, we thought it felt pretty good. So we drove into town to the only hotel, the one we always went to, and we come up to the desk, and the guy said, well, we only have one room. And I looked at Leo, and luckily the woman came up and she goes, oh no, we've got 2 rooms reserved for them. And I looked at Leo and I said, you would have been sleeping in the car. He made a lot of friends with clients, a lot of friends. And I think women especially really respected working with him because he guided them gently, he wasn't pushy. We were working on Hennepin County Medical Center Clinic off Lake Street, or on Lake Street, and the woman administrator said, you know, he'll be sitting in a meeting, half asleep, but he opens his mouth and he's right on the money. And that was Leo. He's low key. But if you need answers, he's the one you always go to.
Well, I don't know Leo quite as well as the rest, but I do know Leo profoundly, let's say. And I do have a couple notes, so. But to begin with, many of you have heard my story. I, at about age 9, was in Tom Horty's garage, and he's a relative of mine, and looked at his cars, looked at his lifestyle, and thought, boy, I like this architecture stuff. I also like the fact that she can do it without having to go out in the wintertime and pound nails. So I thought, God, I'm gonna be an architect. That day I decided. So some years later, I found myself as a student intern working at Horty Elving. And I was observing the various kinds of people that work there, the various, let's say, movers and shakers, but there was only one that I really looked at, and that was certainly Leo. He was the one that certainly could kind of navigate between Tom Horty, Les Formel, and others, but did the math today at the age of about 29 or 30. Here's Leo Monster essentially running the real work at the office, developing and getting projects out the door. And I always said, this is the guy, this is the go-to guy, the go-to guy. And at that time, he was working on everything you could think of that's even we're working on right now. Hutchinson Hospital. We're working on a version of Metropolitan Medical with HCMC, and there's others. And I can say that from looking at that, he's a go-to guy with our clients and his clients. And that's wonderful, which proves that over the years he's had a lot of staying power. And by the way, Leo, I think maybe we've kind of talked about this, but my job with you was to do Leroy lettering. If any of you remember what that was, we didn't press a button and the titles showed up on the drawings. We did it the old-fashioned way, but if you look at the history at that time, the building at 505 East Grand was brand new. You looked out the window and the IDS building and the Hennepin County Government Center were under construction. HCMC and versions of that were under construction. That's what 45 years ago looks like. And I can say that Leo doesn't look much younger, and that's certainly in my mature eyes. Anyways, sometime after graduation, I wanted to buy Horty Elving because I saw Tom Horty getting older, and I thought, God, the guy's gonna want to, leave and do that sort of thing. We had a little lunch and couldn't get very far with it, and I kind of realized that this wasn't gonna work. So as you may know, this kind of turned around, and not very long ago, we had those same negotiations, and I had the same kind of thoughts, but I thought, boy, this time the go-to guy is gonna help us. I just bet. And I can say that is true. Leo, yourself, and others certainly made this so, but it was certainly your leadership that helped get the deal done. The transition to St. Paul is completed, And from what I have heard and seen this last few years, Leo has been really a leader in many ways of keeping that transition working. He is the go-to guy still. And internally, the great transition of Horty Elving lives on with me anyways, and I certainly can see that as my own sort of thing. So once again, I look at the 50 years has been both Wold and for both Wold and Horty Elving. It's really been because of our great guy here. Congratulations, Leo, for all that great effort, the go-to guy.
How you doing, Leo?
Good afternoon. So I've had the pleasure of working with Leo for about the last 8.5 years. And he's been wonderful to work with. And there's some things I learned pretty early on that I call Leo-isms. And I think maybe I say these informally in the office, that there's some Leo-isms. So here's my list of Leo-isms. You must always have a curve in your building. The first time I worked with Leo, I think maybe it was Armor, he did this beautiful curve on the inpatient wing. Looked great, everyone loved it, and then I was the one that had to sit there and figure out all the geometry in each one of those patient rooms and how those were going to lay out and work properly. Which, after that, I was like, Leo, we're not doing any more curves. Which, of course, we still did more curves. When you travel with Leo, which I did a number of traveling with, you always get to your destination before you eat supper or dinner. It doesn't matter if it's 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, if you're fainting, you get to your destination, you check into your hotel, and then you get dinner so you can relax, have a nice meal, have a glass of wine, and you have the driving done. I learned that the hard way, because I think I almost passed out our first meal, because I was so hungry by the time we got there. Next thing I learned, another Leoism, is never dilute the currency of your words. Leo is a man that will sit in a meeting, he'll listen to everyone, he'll think about what the issues are, how to solve them, and when he finally speaks and talks to the group, they are solid, right-on words. And so you learn to listen to what comes out of Leo's mouth when it does. Next Leoism, always serve your client, which Tu-Anh mentioned. So how I learned that was Leo and I were in Sisseton, South Dakota, and somehow we had miscommunicated with the administrator, and we're sitting there at the end of the day, and Dan says something to us about a meeting the next morning. And I'm thinking, I don't know if you remember this, I'm thinking in my head like, we're not meeting the next morning. I don't have anything to wear tomorrow. I have no makeup. So I'm looking at Leo, and Leo's like, yeah, we'll be here at 8 in the morning. So, of course, I get in the car, I'm like, Leo, I don't have any clothes, I don't have any makeup, what are we gonna do? So we find like the equivalent of a South Dakota Walgreens. And I could buy makeup, and I think I bought a new shirt or something. Yeah, it wasn't Walgreens, but it was one of those weird off-brands. But that was about the amount of selection. I don't know if you remember the name of that store. Maybe it was a local Shopco or something.
So what did Leo do then? Did he get a shirt too?
I don't know, Leo, what did you do? I think you got a shirt too.
I think I got one
think
from
you got one
Shopco, I think. Yeah.
What did it say on the front?
My last Leoism is always have everyone's back. Because Leo will never let anyone fail. He'll never let a project fail. There's many times when I started working at Horty Elving Wold, I knew about buildings, but I didn't know about healthcare buildings. And if I ever felt over my head or didn't know, Leo would always come in, last minute, help. He's even helping on Johnson Memorial. He's helping resolve some issues with some people that used to be at Horty Wold that aren't there anymore. So it's been a pleasure to work with you, Leo. I wish I was there for all 50 years. I've Only been able to be there the last 8.5, but congratulations.
Thank you.
I should ask Chris, did I miss anything?
Excuse me?
Did I miss any Leo
No, I
business?
think you got them all.
Does anyone else want to say a few words? Can I open up the mic?
Well, I guess I will. I don't like to, but I will. I'm not a public speaker, Leo, but I'll make an exception for you. People ask me how, sometimes they find it strange that I could be doing the same job for so long. And it's because I like my job, but also because I like and respect the people I work with. And, that's included a lot of different people, many of them who are here this evening. But you too, Leo. And, Leo knows a lot, we all know that, and Leo's got a lot of characteristics that make him a pleasant person to be with. He's got infinite patience. But I think, it's the way you deal with people that is your most outstanding characteristic. I remember a meeting, a project with a very unhappy owner's representative, and this guy did not like us, and he really didn't like me. And we were going to have a meeting so he could come and just chew us out. And Leo dealt with it very gracefully and professionally by, you just didn't show up. We were all in the meeting and he had no one to aim at because the guy wasn't there. And that was on Oaks. I don't know if you remember a friend Richard. But I guess the thing that I admire the most is that you always treat everyone with a lot of respect, and the world needs more of that, and it's something that I have always tried to emulate, and so I really appreciate that, and I appreciate having had the opportunity to do so many different projects with you to help me do what I have done in my career. Is a lot due to you, so thank you for that.
Well, as I have been, for those of you who don't know, I'm Jim Elving, but as I thought about Leo the last 24 hours, and I'd like to thank Rick for giving me about a 10-hour advance notice that he'd like me to say something. But I couldn't get a story out of my mind in reflecting on Leo that had nothing to do with Leo, but it kind of had something to do with what I was thinking about this event. And they say anyone who speaks publicly and introduces anything to do with religion or politics is a brave fool. Now, I've been called a brave fool many times, although it's been of some concern to me that oftentimes when people call me that, they leave the word brave out. But in any case, there was a book report that I heard. I have a Saturday morning meeting with a couple of other peers, and we solve the world's problems for a couple hours, and once in a while we bring out the good book. And here's the reference to religious, but don't worry, there will be no preaching here. But anyway, the main reason we bring out that book is because the other six people are worried about me staying on the straight and narrow, I'm sure. But nevertheless, this guy read a book, or told us about a book that he read that said simply, and I'll keep the description as short as possible, any skeptic who considers a religion has the right to think that the person that is at the center place of the religion is either exactly what they say they are or is a complete lunatic. I mean, that's a reasonable, for a skeptic, it's reasonable two thoughts to think. So leaving that, how do I make the step over to Leo? Well, here's a guy that you've heard witness tonight, this afternoon, that he is all those things. He's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable. He's a healthcare planner, as good as any. He's got to be. He's a people person. He's got to be. He might be quiet, but he's got to be a people person, because when you go in and do this planning, you're dealing with department heads, and I don't know, interview 20 or 30 or 40 departments when you go and start a project, and every department head has got to be heard. So he has all these qualities, and yet he's been here in the business for 50 years. In the marketplace, hearing all the good and bad, meeting budgets, meeting salaries, hiring and firing. I have to say that he's either a very good architect and a very good guy, or he's a lunatic. And I'm going to say that I think he's a great guy. I've worked with him for almost 40 years. And I think he's one of the smartest, down-to-earth, practical planners, hospital planners that I know of. You work with hospital budgets. You know about designing close, although I've talked to many Wold school architects, and I guess schools have the same issues oftentimes. Not an extra dollar to spare. But he has all these traits. He's a people person. That's what I think. That's what I think of Leo. I will leave it up to you as you work with him over the coming weeks, months, however how long he decides to work. I will give you the freedom to decide for yourself if you want to choose the other option. Congratulations, Leo.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak before we get to the toast? Leo's got a big grin on his face. That's a good way to start.
Josh, I'll,
Oh, Greg's in his Gotta be here.
I'll give a little younger perspective on the great Leo monster. I don't want to place anybody that's spoken previously in the older category. When I started, it was not even 2 years ago. I heard many great things about, just talk about the office. Oh, Leo this, Leo that, and I hadn't met Leo probably until my second or third weekend, or really done anything with him. But when I did, I knew I should listen to what he has to say and take it with really understand what he has to say, because he has a lot of value to add, and I've done that ever since. And I know with all of us now becoming part of the new industry, I just want to say thank you, Leo, because you're a great mentor and teacher for all of us.
All right. Anybody else? That was a good lay ad, Rick. Good work.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you know, it's funny, a lot of great stories, and I appreciate everyone's speech. And Rick, I really like your approach. And a lot of people, I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of R's came out afterwards. But there's one R that I didn't hear. And it's actually a quality that I didn't even think about in terms of expressing it in an R until I got here tonight. And it's the word real. And Leo, if I could say anything, and I've seen it within our office, and I hear it tonight in all of our speeches, and I've seen it with clients and even our consultants out of the office, it's that Leo's real. What he says he means, he stands behind it in every way, shape, and form. And no matter who's around, they don't question it. He says what's on his mind, and it's usually very insightful. I'm one that likes to push boundaries, so Leo and I have bet many times. And I learned early on that the family says that Tony knows everyone and Leo knows everything. That's a common phrase. And as a person who likes to live on the edge, I've tested that many a times with Leo, and I think I've won one bet in 3 years. And I'm trying to even remember what it was anymore, but I remember we were in the car, and I had celebrated pretty mightily, honking the horn, things like that. I remember I was pretty excited about it. So I think that's the one and only lunch Leo's had to buy me, and I've got to be down at least 40 or 50 on mine. So I've learned now that Leo really does know everything, and it's a testament to everyone in this room as they've talked tonight, with all that he's taught a lot of us. And through all the years, it sounds like has continued to be a mentor, and he does it behind the scenes. Leo's never one that's out there. He's never one that's saying, hey, I want to come help. It's just all of a sudden at 6 o'clock at night, he shows up at your desk, and you sit down and you have a great conversation about whatever topic it is that you're working on, and whatever it may be. And he always has something very insightful to add in. And so that's a quality that I've always appreciated and observed many times personally, but it is not going to notice, Leo, that you're out and about doing that with everybody. And I know in hearing everybody talk about it tonight that we all do appreciate that. It's a great quality to have. And the Leoisms, Sarah, that was a good one as well. And Diedre mentioned old married couple. I've heard Leo and I refer to that now. And some days it's interesting. My Leoisms are actually not really words. Leo and I now, it's more glances and noises.
Time for one of you to retire.
And some of the ones, I just did it today, I actually brought up the roast thing, and I just got the look over the top of his glasses like, not gonna happen. And so, of course we were kidding, we would never roast you, Leo. Far too nice for that. But some of the other ones that I hear often, if I'm starting to get a question, I'm starting to wonder, and I always pause for a moment to be like, am I on the right track here? So I automatically know if I hear that grunt that I better pause and think for a moment before I go down the next route and make the bet that I was about to make. So, but it has been fun, Leo. I know it's been not even 3 years yet, but it really feels like I've worked with you nearly all 50 years, because it's been great.
Like 6.
It seems like 6. I know. I'm a pain in the butt to deal with. And Leo probably feels like it's been 100 years. It has been a lot of fun, Leo, and I do appreciate all that you've taught me and everyone else in the room. And with that, I'd like to invite everyone to raise their glass and toast Leo and thank him for us, and we appreciate it very much, Leo. Thank you. Thank you. All right, well, everybody, there's still some food left, it looks like, and if there's drinks to be had, that'll be good. And then rounding it out, there was a beautiful cake out front. So for everybody to have a piece of cake, and then also before I put the mic down, I'd like to thank Tu-Anh. Tu-Anh did a ton of effort putting all of this together today. I know Leo appreciates it as well, and Nicole. And Sarah planned some as well. So thank you guys all for doing that. And Leo's family all came in. It's been fun to hear stories, not the stories you've told me, Leo. I've got to hear some stories. So that's been fun. So I hope a few more of those come out before we all go.
Why don't you introduce them? The rest of us.
Oh, yes. I'll let Leo do that. They warned me a quiz was coming. I didn't know that I could name everything. Quiz? It was family member names. I was told I had to give a quiz.
Thank you.
Hey.
Well, first I'd like to thank everybody. I guess the ringleaders, Tu-Anh and Sarah and Ricky. Yes, that's Rick's name, Ricky. Remember that?
By the way, he's the only one.
But Scott, I hope your head isn't splitting open. No. Huh? To see that many curves?
One brick at a time.
Straighten them out, huh?
I saw a brick and it said what? An arch. No, it said curve.
Yes, I couldn't have done this for 50 years without a damn supportive family. So, I'd like my wife to come up here.
You can use her name.
This is my wife for 30-some years.
Sorry, I don't remember it.
It's been a long time. And we've, Sarah, where is Sarah? Sarah, we don't eat at home until 9 or 10.
Is that true? Okay.
And when I dated him, I learned too that you didn't get to eat. I finally said to him, you know, I really could use 2 meals a day.
And, you know, we have 4 daughters, Cassie and Wade. Cassie, Cassie's the oldest. Stand up. Yeah, stand up. Cassie and her husband Wade is filming it, unfortunately, I guess. I didn't notice it. They live in Fort Collins, Colorado. And been here for about a week to enjoy this, came for this event, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're out here all the time.
They're out to see us quite a bit, and we love going to Colorado also. Horty Elving is right behind her, and Mark, her husband, right here.
Stand up.
Yeah. They live about 4 or 5 miles south of us.
Yeah, we never went very far.
And Corey is the dog person, so is Bonnie here?
She's with the cat.
Oh, there she, yeah, don't get close to Bonnie. We need to have an animal fight here. And our oldest grandson, Nick, is there, so.
He's mine. Just keep him away from all cats and dogs.
Our 3rd grandson is Callie.
No, her daughter.
Daughter. Gotta get home more.
Crayons here.
You gotta stand up.
Callie actually worked for Horty Elving in what year?
86,
Four?
maybe?
No,
85?
84, 85.
You mean you got paid?
Did the blueprint.
She was a print person, remember?
Work with Linda.
Prints?
No.
Oh, he knows.
What?
And her husband Calvin, and they're here from California, sunny California, so. We're trying to get our daughters in places where we'd like to go. Well, hi, Joe. Our youngest daughter is Heather. Stand up. She's a nurse at Masonic Children's Hospital, the NICU, so she gives a few healthcare tips. And her husband Joe is probably working with Wold on something because he's the county engineer up in Chisago County. So I don't know if we're doing anything in Chisago County. Yep. Better.
He's also has a lot of sense of humor.
So, also, I have 2 work wives.
And I have admitted that they are, and thank them.
So, Linda and I used to travel a lot. And, how long? I don't remember when you started.
81.
81. So that's.
And by the way, Leo teaches by osmosis.
True. But it seems to work sometimes. But Linda and especially Diedre, you didn't have to worry that you didn't eat until 10 o'clock. So, because they always had a purse and then a bag of food. You know, it's usually made out of rice or something like that. But there was always food in the car whenever you had Linda and Diedre. And yeah, Diedre and I were like an old married couple. With our differences.
Keep looking at me.
Another old married couple. But it's been great. Like I said, I couldn't have done this. I know that I've worked many evenings when I should have been home, and my wife, my previous wife took care of kids and helped raise them and stuff like that. So I really appreciate the family being here, and I really appreciate the support for all the years. Otherwise, I'd have probably only made it 30 or so. So, few people know this because few people know a few things about me, but when I was in school, I did not ever want to be an architect. I wanted to design cars.
No, really?
Really. And I still have a little affinity for automobiles. But life sometimes makes some turns, and sometimes wars and that change your plans. So I ended up in this building field, and it's a convoluted story of how I got to Horty Elving that few people know. But I went to an engineering school in Milwaukee for a couple of years until I got tired of doing calculations and physics and all this crap. You know. No curves, straight lines, long division, calculus. So I threw that away, and I went to the university for a couple of years and really liked that stuff. This drawing stuff. It was drawing back there, pencils, ink, Leroy, all that good stuff. Well, because of Vietnam and stuff, I couldn't continue at school and keep my child and not go to Southeast Asia. So I had to do some other things. So I went to the highway department and did compression testing of soil for 10 months. And it was exciting. Every day you'd come in and press this soil into
In the United States, though, versus.
It was in the United States. It was in Minnesota. Yes, yes. It was the Cuyuna Bridge. They were doing the foundation design for the Cuyuna Bridge. That's now been replaced. So
Twice
you know how
over.
long ago it was. Right?
A couple times since then.
So anyway, I got out of there, and I went to Trussville, which did pressed steel, hollow metal door frames and doors, which seemed more exciting than soil sampling.
But not much.
Not a whole lot. But we did load bearing hollow metal, and Irv Malitsky was kind of the Ehor type guy over there, and doing construction administration and things like that. We were doing the building that went between Swedish and St. Barnabas Hospital that aren't there anymore. It's now all part of Hennepin County. We're doing a building that was had 2 floors of load-bearing hollow metal. So we had to do shop drawings of all of this steel. And Irv was over like once a week trying to get the drawings done. So trying to get us to get the drawings done. It was a very complicated project. And so he said, I talked to him, got to know him I did talk to him. So he said, well, we could use somebody over at the office. So I came over after I did modification number 36, which was the entryway from the what's it called, Parkside office building over to MMC, or Hennepin County now. And it was a bunch of load bearing elemental. So he said, well, why don't you come over? We could use somebody over there. So I came over and I interviewed with Horty, and evidently on September 11th I started there. 50 minutes, whatever year that was. It's hard to remember what year it was. So that was day one, and I can't even remember what I worked on first.
Doesn't matter.
Something in Hutchinson, I think.
But you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. Obviously, I enjoyed it.
It was better than soil and hollow metal.
It was better than soil and hollow metal, yeah. The ranks way up there, yeah. So, I really enjoyed it. Things have changed over the years. Now, we enjoyed our negotiations with Matt, Scott. Now we're part of a larger family, a larger organization, and hopefully our interview at Fairview, we had to remind them that we were Horty Elving yet.
That's right. They remember.
So, thank you all for coming. It's a wonderful event. Thank you to Ann, and Sarah, Rick, and everybody who heaped all those platitudes on. Now I'm sure my children can balance the scales a little bit.
They were, I think, with some people.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
and Tom, it's good to see Mr. Van Housen, one of the stalwarts of Horty Elving. Tom is the gray-haired guy in the nice camel jacket over there. Everybody, Mr. Van Housen, he was marketing and design build when we were doing a lot of design build stuff back in the day.
I passed all those art things on that Rick kept on with. I gave them to Barbara.
Oh. And Barb is sitting right across the table. I don't know if you all know Barb. She originated the phrase "done." And have it done a day early, which just didn't stick. Huh? The stalwart, yes. Barb was there more than 50 years, so I'm not the...
57 and a half.
57 and a half? Oh, okay.
Some of us were pumping the crowd.
But she was only 12 when she started.
Yeah.
And Joanne was our receptionist for a long time. 29 years. And I see Mark Anderson snuck in, another St. Paulite, who was, we had a firm, construction coordinators for 20 years or so, and built the Ray Hospital and a lot of other things. He's now an attorney in St. Paul, so you might want to get to know him or not want to any other situation. Any other? Huh? Craig came. Craig and Tammy, yeah. Craig, our ISS engineer. Oh, yeah, Dave was here earlier. Dave Metler, one of the mechanical guys, was here earlier. And Dave Porsche Left? Had to leave, okay. So, all friends that, you know, we passed them a night. 20 years or so, 10 years, or, I don't know, Craig is, how long have we been knowing each other, Craig?
Since '86.
86, since 86, however long that is.
31
30-some years.
Long enough.
Long enough. So, thank you all for coming this evening. It's been great. I don't know if anyone else wants to use this thing. But I do appreciate it very much.